Hey guys, welcome to part 4. This is the last part of this Better Results Faster series. Now, the first 3 parts are really designed to help you at home, you outside the office, to know what other things to add in: movement, nutrition, mindset, to really get the best results in the office. This 4th one's a little bit different, but we've had so many questions about this from so many people that I thought it was critical to spend 10 minutes or so with you guys, giving you the basics of answering the question, why do we see so many children in the office? Why do parents bring their newborn or their young children to get checked and adjusted when some may have symptoms, but many are asymptomatic or don't have any pain yet or a problem? Why is there still benefit, or why is there still a reason to do that? And so I'm going to share that screen with you guys, and we are going to dive in here and give you guys a little bit of pediatrics here today before we finish up. So the question is this: why do so many parents bring in their newborns or children for care? And I think before we answer that question, one of the most important things to address again is, why do we as chiropractors do what we do in the first place, right? Why does anybody get adjusted, and what is the goal of chiropractic care? And the answer is this, is that chiropractic truly is not a treatment for any ache, pain, headache, digestive issue, tight muscle, bad back. It's not a treatment for anything. Really what we understand as chiropractors is that, number one, your body is designed to be healthy, right? And your body is self-healing. It knows what to do, okay? Number 2 is that your brain is the master controller of that entire body. And whether you are 1 day old, you are still in utero, so you haven't even been born yet, or you're 50 or you're 80 years old, your brain is still the master control system of the body. The brain can't work in and of itself, though. And so the third principle is that our brain uses the rest of the nervous system, as you see here, to control and send and coordinate all function, not only to all of our muscles, tissues, ligaments, but to every single organ, for our heart, for our lungs, for our digestive system, for our reproductive organs. It all comes through that nervous system. And so if the body is self-healing, the brain's the master controller, the brain, which is a part of the nervous system, uses the rest of the nervous system, spinal cord and everything else, to control and coordinate and communicate with everything else. Then the 4th point is this, is that any interference, any stress on that nervous system that can affect how your body communicates and functions and how all these signals are sent is simply not good for your health. And so the question is this, is what causes of interference could happen at such an early age? And the truth is this, is that the single most common cause of initial subluxation is actually the birthing process today. Now, I'm going to show you 2 different research studies that show the commonality of that, but from the very basics, you got to understand that, we used to work with gravity. Women would be in a squatting position or a position to help with the baby being delivered. Nowadays, we have women on their backs, legs up in stirrups. No judgment on my part, because I'm really glad I don't have to do it, but about 85% of women get an epidural, so they can't feel below the waist to push. And so the combination of all of these factors of mom not being able to push as much, not feeling as much, the baby being pushed against gravity, as well as several other factors, all of those different things lead to, if mom can't push and we're not using gravity, the doctor has to pull. And that stress gets transitioned into the baby. Now, you see here in this position, what is the first thing that they tell you to do when you hold any baby? You probably have all heard this, right? Support the head, because that head's flopping around because they don't have the ability to support that yet. And so the most common initial cause of subluxation and the most common location is the birthing process, and in particular, the upper cervical spine. And so I want to share with you guys 2 different studies. One of them is a little older, and then one of them is actually just a very recent study. The first study was actually the one on the right over here. There was a German medical doctor named Gottfried Gutmann, And he examined over 1,000 newborns. And this happened back in the 1990s. And what he concluded was that approximately 80% of all newborns had some form of nerve dysfunction. And the number one area he was seeing it was the upper neck area. That's where the atlas bone sits, right up top here. And so when you're pulling and twisting and trying to get that baby out and get the head to clear and the shoulders to clear, if you've had a baby yourself, if you are a husband and seen your wife give birth, or you've seen videos, you may have seen that stuff. So whether that happens with the hand, with forceps, which are like the big tongs that they twist and pull, something called vacuum-assisted extraction, when they'll put a suction cup and they'll use a suction force to pull the baby's head, or even potentially a C-section by reaching in and grabbing the baby out by its head, that all of these different things put a lot of stress on the head and neck area. Right? So that was a study by him. The next study here that I want to highlight for you guys is one that was really powerful. This was published in the Journal of the American Osteopathic Association in 2015, the very end of it. And essentially what they looked at here was they were looking at, they looked at 100 babies, and they were examined between 6 hours and 72 hours post-birth. So these were all healthy babies, no problems, no issues whatsoever with the birth. So what you would consider a healthy newborn. And they assessed all of them for misalignment, for stress. And the title that they have here is Somatic Dysfunction, so movement dysfunction, in particular looking at the upper neck area. And if you look at the results here, what they found is fascinating. Out of 100 newborns examined, if you look down here in the results, the average they were an average gestational age, just so you know, like of 38 and a half weeks. In 99 newborns, at least one sphenobasal or synchondrosis strain pattern was present. What that means, essentially, that's another synonym for subluxation. So they found at least one subluxation with 99 of the 100 newborns. And what they found, if you look further down here, is the other big takeaway is that the somatic dysfunction, or those things were found in the neck, in the lumbar spine, in the sacral region, were all very common. And then they also found that the length of labor, the longer the labor went, the more locations that they found that predicted more subluxations. And that probably makes sense, right? That the more locations in your child that there were subluxations present was due to the length of the labor. So all very, very critical information. And we realized from an early age that these things can cause a lot of problems. I wanted to add in and highlight for you guys too, the importance to understand that, you know, in the first year of life, about 65% of all neurological development in the brain and the nervous system happens post-birth. So after the baby's born, between birth and the age of 1, about 65% of the nervous system development happens. And so we do not want a newborn subluxated at the earliest stages of life, because it can lead to so many challenges, and it can really impact stuff not only initially, but potentially long-term. So I just wanted to highlight here a list of some of the most common things that can show up if that happens. And so what we've actually seen is that nerve dysfunction associated with birth trauma may result in things like breathing weakness, irritability, colic, difficulty with feeding, attachment issues, so not latching properly, sleeping problems, and neurological deficits. But undetected, most of these subluxations, just like cavities early on, we don't feel. Most of these subluxations, if they're not being checked for, the baby's not feeling it, or they're not able to communicate that to you. If they're left undetected, they can become things like learning disabilities or difficulties, sensory issues, apraxia, other problems like that, asthma, chronic ear infections, hyperactivity, or other problems as well. And really long-term, it's not as much just that there are problems for the baby just from the get-go itself, but long-term, even post-birth, you know, everything from car seats, extended period of time, and sleeping in, and with positions of the head being tilted or rotated. To then, as they get a little older, the physical traumas of things like accidents, injuries, learning how to ride a bike, learning how to walk, falling, skateboarding, skiing, playing early competitive sports of any kind of age. All of these things can cause problems, including didn't really used to be an issue, but now so many children are staring at phones, at iPads, at screens for extended periods of time, video games, backpacks, so many challenges that you can see can cause stress on the nervous system and on children. And before I get into this last part here, what's pretty crazy, the research actually shows that on average, a child before the age of 7 will fall about 2,500 times. And before the age of 3, will have had 3 major falls off of a changing table, out of a cot, or down a flight of stairs. It's estimated that 47.9% of children land on their head in their first year of life. That is all research. If you guys want, some of the citations, let us know from that. But all of these things speak to why it's so critical to have a child checked. And so I wanted to highlight here, you can actually see some amazing pictures of Dr. Raphael and I with kids, and I'll talk about the process of adjusting a child here in a second. But I love this list here. This is a list of a big poll that was taken and put into one of my favorite books of all time, Well-Adjusted Babies, as the 10 reasons why parents take their kids to the chiropractor. And so the first one is to encourage good neuroplasticity. That's brain and nerve system development. Like we said, 65% of that happens after birth. And so making sure that their body is adapting and the nervous system is developing properly is a super critical part. The second one is just to support the child's overall health and well-being, right? To be healthy, to be thriving, to really be at their best. I've been blessed, and I'll share part of my story as we go through this. But myself, I've been adjusted since I was born. Unlike Dr. Raphael, who didn't grow up and didn't know about chiropractic until he was in college, I was adjusted since birth because my father's been a doctor of chiropractic for about 35 years. And so I've been blessed, and I've been healthier than every single one of my friends growing up, no challenges. And as we go through this list, these things absolutely apply to me. The next thing, to strengthen your child's immunity, to potentially reduce the incidence of colds, earaches, and general illness. There's all kinds of research that show the importance of adjusting and how it supports a strong immune system. Dr. Raphael and I have never missed a day of work ever from being sick in the office. And I was healthy with every one of my friends as I was a child, never being sick, never missing school, always having an extremely strong immune system. So that's a really critical part of that there too. The fourth thing, to assist in colic and irritable baby syndrome. We see many children with colic that respond incredibly well. The next one with asthma, breathing difficulties, allergies, very, very common, a lot of help, especially related to that upper neck area. To encourage good spinal posture, right? A lot of our postural things develop when we're early on, when we're in our childhood ages, into our teenage years. And so that's a critical part there. To help with focus, concentration. We see many, many children have improvements with things like ADHD, ADD, focus, concentration issues, sensory challenges. And so all of those things are important as well. Behavioral disorders, another huge one. Alleviate digestive problems, right? Things like reflux, things like constipation, things like just many, many difficulties within that. That's such a common thing when there's subluxations present in the upper neck, in the sacrum, right at the base of the lower spine. Right? All of those things can be critical. And even the last thing too is better sleep and bedwetting. Right? There's a lot of stuff with bedwetting. There's some amazing research we can share with that. And for so many parents, especially with newborns, getting a child on a healthy sleeping regimen is an absolute game changer, not only for the baby, but even maybe more importantly for the parents themselves. And so this can be an absolute critical component to help improve sleep. All of our sleep regulation and sleep pattern comes from where that brainstem is in the upper neck. So that area is really, really common. One of the most common questions we'll receive too, before we kind of wrap up this point here in this little time talking about pediatrics is how much force is used to adjust a baby. Is there, are we thrusting into the baby? Is there any kind of manual harm at all to the baby whatsoever? And the answer is absolutely not. When you think about adjusting baby, if you look in the pictures up here, 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 all these different areas here, what you'll notice is that most commonly we'll use our pinky finger, maybe an index finger, light sustained contact to deliver that correction. We're not having to deliver any thrust. The amount of force that we use to deliver an adjustment to a baby is usually the equivalent of, if you could imagine the ripeness of an avocado, checking that at the store, that's about as much pressure as we use when we deliver those adjustments on newborns. And as a child gets a little older, gets to be about 1 year of age, and if not a little bit later in the toddler age, we may use the integrator adjusting instrument on the lightest setting, oftentimes through one of our fingers, through a thumb, through an index finger to deliver the adjustment. But it's very gentle. Children love getting adjusted, and it can be an absolute game changer for their health early on, to have a strong functioning nervous system and to really be their best. Because as a parent, I know all of you just want to have healthy, just amazing kids. And when you have chronic health issues, if your child are having chronic health issues with being sick, allergies, all kinds of those problems, it can be just such a detrimental issue. And before we turn to antibiotics, before we turn to over-the-counter medications, before we turn to any kind of surgeries, tubes and ears, any of that kind of stuff, it's so, so important to make sure that nervous system is functioning as best and have your child check for subluxation. And so one of the amazing things that we want to leave you guys with is this. We want to let you know two things. For one, if you want to get your child checked, if you want to get them scanned and checked for subluxation, we would love to do that for you. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to attach this graphic, the top 10 reasons why parents take their kids to the chiropractor, onto this. You can download, save that graphic to your cell phone, and if you share that graphic on your social media, on your Facebook, on your Instagram, and tag Accrue Health in it, and show the girls at the front, we will scan your children in the office. Whether you have one child, a couple children, they'll get scanned for free, complimentary on us, normally $149 full price. Just by sharing this graphic out, we will get them scanned for you, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing and the final thing I want to leave you guys with is, if you follow along for parts 1, 2, 3, and now part 4 of this Better Results Faster series, we've been giving you a code letter for each of these. So the code letter in nutrition, the code letter in mindset, the code letter in movement, and now the final code letter is the letter H. Okay, the letter H is your final letter. So if you put those together, that will spell a word. You're going to tell that word to the girls at the front desk at the office, and we're going to give you guys an amazing gift. Again, $40 value, and it's a gift that Dr. Raphael and I use every single day. It'll be a huge blessing for you, for the family. So we want to thank you. I hope you got a lot of value out of this. This just scratched the surface on when it comes to kids and pediatrics. But ask Dr. Raphael and I questions. We'll have more workshops, more things going forward, and we'd love to provide you with further resources with questions that you may have about yourself, about your children, about grandchildren, nieces, nephews. We'd love to be an amazing resource for you and either help those children ourselves, or if they're not local here to San Diego County, we'd love to find somebody amazing for that area to be a resource for you guys there. So thank you guys. I hope you got a lot of value, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys soon in the office. Bye.